Before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our founding sponsor, Digital Recruiter Podcast, Signature Back Office Solutions. If you're running a staffing firm, if you're a direct hire and your clients are asking you about contractors and all that, you're trying to figure out where am I going to get funding or payroll taken care of, talk to Signature Back Office Solutions, signaturebackoffice.com. They've been doing this since 2006. They work with over 400 staffing firms. They'll handle everything, payroll, compliance, workers' comp in all 50 states. You don't have to worry about a thing. Make sure to check out the link in the episode summary. Book a call with my good friend, John Davis, the president CEO of Signature Back Office Solutions. All right. We are back. Another episode, Digital Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Clark Wilcox, founder of Digital Recruiter. And we have an interesting topic today. Awesome guest, really just so timely for what's going on in 2026 in the recruiting market and the software tech market and AI and ATSs. So we're going to dive into AI native versus, augmented ATS and kind of what do we do with the AI world? Is it more relationships? Do we rely on AI? So I'm here now with the founder of StarDex, Sanket Chauhan, and we're going to dive into it. So, hey, appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. And shout out to Eli for making the intro.
Yeah, Eli, our good friend Eli Rule, and had a chance to stay with him in Miami, him and Greg Fisher a couple weeks ago, and we had a great time. I can vouch that he may or may not be great at karaoke. No, Eli is great, super smart dude, and making some
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, so this was a big topic with Eli and myself. We both realized our top one or two was Meatloaf, "I Do Anything for Love," which was
Nice.
wild when we realized that. I did some remix to Ignition R. Kelly. That was a little polarizing to the audience, given his standing in the world right now. But it's a great track. It's a great track.
Yeah.
So we did a little bit of that. We did some, lit my own worst enemy. It was a good time. It was a good
Nice.
time. So how about you? Do you dabble?
A little bit. My wife's a big karaoke fan, and so I think I usually just like to observe. But my go-to song tends to be Linkin Park's "In the End."
Oh, I mean, classic. My now mission is to see that at some point because I did not expect that answer, and I don't know if I've seen that karaoke. I'm sure that would bring the house down. Linkin Park is pretty solid, so I love it. All right, well, before we start a karaoke podcast, which could easily happen. It sounds like. Let's dive in. Why don't you give the audience, just a little bit of background as to, StarDex, what it does, and kind of, we'll start there.
Yeah, so I'm one of the co-founders of StarDex, and StarDex is the AI-native ATS and CRM for search firms. Hundreds of recruiters use it every day to execute searches faster by first surfacing the right candidates from your own data. Your firm's data is the most valuable data, and we make it searchable. And second, helping you build custom workflows on top using Claude, MCP servers, or whatever other tools that you want to continue using. We want to be the data layer that allows you to work with external tools and make it such that you're not limited by a system that is pretty strict.
Love it. So before we're going to get into MCPs and Claude and all of that amazing, sometimes overwhelming for some people, but amazing kind of stuff, how did you get to here?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I were working on a different company before this. And once we wrapped up that company, one of the challenges we were having as part of that was to manually do a lot of sales research. And so this was like 3 years ago when the models were getting really good. We thought, oh, this is a perfect example of automating the research workflow. And so we built in a Chrome extension and we put it out on LinkedIn, and a bunch of recruiters started using it. And we realized, oh, this is actually an interesting use case. Folks are using this to research candidates and their profile. And what we realized, this was 3 years ago, the models were good, but they were not as good as they are now. And so that meant that as folks were using the product, they realized the quality can be very variable. And so we realized, well, this is probably a good opportunity for us to build almost like an AI services business. And so we ran a research agency where we worked with search firms. And so they would give us a list of criteria and they would tell us, hey, can you go and build like a market map of all the candidates that work here exhaustively? Because they would be doing this either with in-house research associates or offshore teams, and a lot of times they would be strapped on resources. And so we were just providing them extra resources at a lot cheaper price point, but also we were using AI to help us manage that workflow. And fast forward, as we were doing that for about 3-4 months, we realized, okay, well, there are two things. One was that most of these workflows were very, very like obvious to be automated over time in terms of just like getting a list of people and reviewing some basic criteria. The taste is still something that AI cannot automate, but at least some of the core 80% of the work can be automated. And the second thing was something that we just realized after working with search firms is that not a single firm we work with or talk to liked using their ATS. And we saw that as an opportunity to think about, why don't we just go and build a system of record from the ground up? Yes, it's a very fragmented market, tons of competitors already by the time we started, but we just saw that as an opportunity that, hey, if and when AI gets really good, you need a system that also makes it such that it works well with agents. And back then, we weren't thinking about all these things and how quickly it happened, but now hindsight 2020, it like felt like, oh, the way we were thinking about this and how we approach it kind of just like fell in place.
Interesting. So let's dive into that because the new ATS, right? There's new software on the scene or ATS, and what is the advantage of kind of like there's AI native and then there's like I think the AI augmented piece of it. Can you like dive into the differences? I mean, I've been learning about this last couple of weeks more, and it's been interesting from what I've kind of taken in. But you're the expert, so I'm not gonna dive into it. Say, but from your perspective, like what is the difference, right? So the listeners kind of understand. I think evaluating ATS is a huge question. How do I evaluate? How do I evaluate with AI now being a thing like who actually knows how to leverage it, who is just kind of bolting it on? So you can kind of like go into the difference between AI native and AI augmented.
Yeah, and I'll approach this in a couple of different aspects. One at a more tactical level on what it means to be an AI native product.
Yeah.
But I would also want to talk a little bit at a meta level what it means. And so let's start at kind of like the tactical level of like what the difference is here, right? And at its core, it is about how flexible your database can be in some form or fashion. And so within AI, in terms of when you want to go and search a data, if you're going and looking at a traditional database, you have a structured data. That means you have to go use filters, that is keyword, as well as Booleans in terms of including certain element. And that's the extent of what you can do with a traditional database. Now, fast forward, you have AI databases that allows you to do the same structured element, but you can tack on similarity search, which means I can go and find similar candidates given one specific candidate. And that is a very good use case for recruiting because that's kind of the work a lot of us are doing in a day-to-day basis. And to me, like an AI augmented product is the one that has initially been building out this from a structured setting. And then now they have to go and figure out, okay, now I have to go and change my search system to also include a vector database. And there are lots of nuances, and it means they have to spend a lot of time re-architecturing certain things as part of your stack. Versus ATSs and CRMs that have been started over the last 2-3 years, they have the advantage because we've been thinking about this as the core. And so we designed our system such that every record you have in StarDex is stored in a vector database as well as a structured database so that it allows you to search things easily, which also means that now I can find candidates within my database much quicker. And I don't have to worry about if I forgot to tag someone in my database, I can still search without relying on a keyword search. So the system can read the raw data, resumes, transcripts, emails, notes, and then it can pick up, for example, Series B Python, whatever on its own, and it kind of like flattens that gap between someone that needs to be disciplined as a recruiter versus just someone that's not. Like, it doesn't matter. Just get the data in one place,
Yeah.
and the system can kind of take care of that. And I think that is like the core tactical difference on where the older ATSs are struggling in terms of transitioning out of that piece. That being said, again, like I think tons of systems are working on making sure that they are adding the vector search as part of it. It just takes time. They're a little bit behind, and of course they can catch up. It's a matter of like when and if they catch up. But I would imagine that like, hey, it's not rocket science. Like folks will catch up on this. It's about like most of these newer players just have a head start in that element there.
It's the piece the gap being bridged between, I would say, the organized, disciplined data entry type recruiters and like the all over the place. I think that's one of the things that I've definitely seen myself. And I was pretty good at following the system at Aerotech, but as a founder and having my own system and kind of keeping track of that, it's been night and day. And I was talking to another software company at the Pinnacle conference a couple weeks ago, and their head of sales is great at selling, right? But historically known for not keeping track of the CRM as much, and now it's basically been solved with AI. Like, to your point, as long as you just have the data, I think recording calls, that's what I posted about this week. Like, you just have to do, if you're a recruiter, just like get your stuff recorded, like the candidate calls, the client calls, because that is where the gold is in terms of like for dashboards or creating proposals or playbooks or anything else. And I think that's not going to be new to anyone on here, but I think the priority of that piece of it, like if you had hesitations before, like you just have to get in there and just capture the data, because you can do so much with it so much quicker now with AI. And it's just so interesting with the ATS piece of it, and to be AI-augmented or AI-native, and even like I think there's use cases with you. You have clients connecting with Claude to the database, and then current clients, and then going in and being like, hey, current clients, you're open jobs. Here's our candidates that can match the open jobs, which is something that we've been kind of testing out for like new business development prospecting. But I've been doing it with current clients, like, and just increasing the meeting quality, the reasons to meet. Everyone's like, oh, what do I say? How do I follow up with people? It's like, well, you got to give them something legit, and it's never been faster to do that with this technology.
Definitely, and I guess like on your question about like what is the other difference, right? So I think what I described to you is like that's more tactical things, and I think those tactical things are, I have no doubt that an existing CRM or ATS will catch up on those things. It is a matter of them just needing to think about it, rebuilding, and at some point there are examples, not within recruiting but in other areas of like system of records, where they've sort of like reinvented themselves by just like scrapping the older system and then kind of rebuilding something from scratch. So there are good examples of that as well, which I would imagine some players might consider doing that. But I think the other piece is more at a meta level, where I think of our company as like an AI native company. We try to do everything and approach from where can we leverage AI within the organization, but more importantly, just in the mindset. And an example here is we built an MCP server like 8 months ago, right before most ATS even thought about putting on their roadmap. And it's about kind of like thinking about, okay, what are things that AI can sort of enable 6 months from now, 12 months from now, and then making sure that the team is on our side thinking and building these things such that, like for us, we were able to leverage the MCP sort of craze over the last month a lot, mainly because we already had an MCP server. So by the time it became more relevant, more and more people were just like, oh, this just works. And then over the last month and a half, we started seeing tons of our customers just building stuff on top of it, which is kind of cool to see, because a month and a half ago, none of these folks would have been able to do it without an engineering background. But it's cool that now anyone can just do that, which is exciting for everyone, because you have a lot of capabilities now at your disposal that didn't exist before. And I think at a meta level, like we try to think about ourselves as the company, the type of company that is thinking about those things, which I think would be something that an existing like 15-year-old company is going to struggle, primarily just because that's just how things are, and things are harder to change when you have a good software model that works. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to go and disrupt that often.
Yeah. So with that being said, and you're making me think of something I hear all the time from the
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of recruiters I worked with is switching to a new platform and switching to ATS.
Yeah.
So what's that process like with StarDex? What have you kind of seen? Like, how do you recommend recruiters kind of tackle the what seems to be like an Everest to climb, which is switching an ATS? Like, how do you how do you approach it? What do you say to them? Like, how do you kind of make it not like feel insane to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah. And so I think when we speak to a customer and they're saying, I'm interested in switching a system or record, my first question is like, I'm trying to understand like what's driving the reason to change. If the reason to drive the change is purely just because you think that your existing system is not keeping up with some of the AI capabilities, I think it's not the right example to kind of like go and latch onto. Like first understand, is there a real pain point, or are you just trying to chase the trend of what can I do as part of my stack to use and leverage AI? Because if it's the latter, then there are other ways that you can add AI within your stack without changing your core system. And so I think more importantly, first figuring that out is important, because any change is going to be tough. And so you need the organization to figure out, okay, we're committing to this because of these two or three reasons that are beyond just like the AI like strategy of our company. Because then by aligning on that, you've already decided that, hey, we're going to commit to this. And that takes care of like 80% of the work, because then you've already kind of committed that, okay, we want to do this, we're excited to do this. Now it's just about walking through a process.
Yep.
Once you get there, then it's about like a week to 2 week process. Typically, that's what most of our migrations take, where you want to give us access to your data. We will go and review everything. Luckily, most systems now give data in a very machine readable format. So once we get all the data, we're going to map it out with you, do a review call, make sure you are okay with the mapping of custom fields and things go in different contexts, making sure everything works well. Then pull a subset of the data, you spot check. We recommend we give them an Excel spreadsheet of like, hey, these are all the records. You go and verify and let us know that it is exactly how it is in your old system. Identify any irregularities, we'll fix it and get that sort of fully merged in. So all in all, it takes 2 weeks. But again, like I think the way I like to think about it is like if you have to kind of like get to a place initially before you even get far into the process, because the process is straightforward. It's about getting data from one system to the other system. It's not rocket science, like unfortunately. It's pretty easy to kind of like, once you have identified this is the data that is here and it needs to go from this to here, it's straightforward. It's about like all the work before that, such that the team feels comfortable. And then, of course, there are going to be process changes. And so being okay with that. But the way I tell people if they're thinking about, oh, I'm scared of migration, is to think about migration as almost an opportunity to rethink your business a little bit in terms of processes. A lot of times you might be doing things because that's what the old tool recommended, or that's what process just got piled up over time. It's a better way to kind of like, okay, I'm going to rethink this process. And so I think that's a lot of times the discussions lead into that of like, okay, well, like, why are you wanting to change your ATS? And you learn that, okay, well, I think we've been doing things very differently. We want to go and switch it up. Okay, so that's a good example of like, okay, you want to kind of like rethink the process. That's a good example of like, okay, maybe as part of that, we might want to migrate. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Like, let's then figure out that and then talk through that.
I like the what resonated is because I've heard it a lot of like just
Mm-hmm.
switching to the shiny new thing or like just to kind of switch it up. And
Yeah.
it's never, I think you've articulated a lot better than I ever have of just like, that's just not a good reason. Like, don't just give yourself busy work for the sake of it to your point. Like, you have to be invested. You have to see, right, the value of, okay, this could, to your point, fundamentally like change the way we operate. But to your point, looking at the opportunity to like, we could rethink our business. And obviously the MCP piece and the Claude and API, like those are all like very valid reasons to switch. But yeah, I think just defining the why and be like, hey, are you just going to give up on this after a couple of weeks or not be into it, or like, are you ready to like have like put your mind to this, right, and get the absolute most out of it is the tech answer. It's the if people want to do marketing or
Yeah.
coaching or consulting, well, that's it's the same thing. Like if you're not in it, your head's not in it, like then don't bother, right? It's just not like the
Yeah.
right and don't bother right now. It might be a later on or something else, right? So I think that piece of it, like there has to be something more tangible than just like, well, like people switching, or I've heard this, or I read a Facebook comment, and all that. It's like, that's like, that's
Yeah.
a easy way to fall off. And then just to kind of blame other things versus just like taking ownership of what you actually need to fix and do in your business, like making sure it's not just like a way to stall doing the real work that you need to do,
Hmm.
like make placements and everything else. So, um,
Yeah, definitely.
well, let's kind of go in a couple other things I want to discuss, but like evolve this piece to like the vibe coded ATS. And vibe coding is
Hmm.
something that I started to get into in the last 6-8 weeks, like pretty intensively. I got into Manus and let's just like open my mind to how good the design is. And I
Yeah.
vibe coded 50 websites. I have no idea if that's what destruction I'm causing in the meantime
Yeah.
by doing all that. But it's been fun, and it's been really cool to see some stuff kind of visually there. Like how are your customers using that? How are they leveraging vibe coding, ATS? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I think it's very cool to see, and I use a lot of vibe coding tools in terms of just testing out and seeing what the experience has, and it's come a long way. And we definitely speak to customers that have even tried building their own ATS in the past, and it's very cool that like, hey, now honestly, for a solo recruiter, I mean, if you want, you could easily just wipe code something in a weekend, and you will actually learn a lot, and you will have a system that works really decently well for the most part, right? And so that is a very cool sort of movement that's happening, and I think it's amazing there. The way we see sort of like this evolving and how our customers are using it is like we tend to work with like solo recruiters as well as firms as big as like 50, 60 recruiters. And what I've seen is, as you sort of like think about mid-sized firms, the challenge that they typically run into with an ATS is that it's strict at a point. After, when you start using it, you run into some or the other type of issue where, hey, I want to do this thing in this way. Or even within like a firm, there might be different teams, and one team prefers to do certain thing versus the other. And it's going to be impossible for any system of record to go and cater to every possible permutation of that. What vibe coding allows in a way, and I'm not saying that like vibe coding in a literal sense that like, hey, go and vibe code StarDex.
Yeah.
I'm using that as like an, I guess maybe in a way, comparison point on what I like to call it as a headless ATS in a way, where, hey, you have a system that keeps everything updated, the records stay updated, refreshed in terms of the work experience. As emails and calls get pulled into StarDex, the record of the person also stays updated. You have the UX of StarDex. So you can go and update things yourself, but inevitably, a subset of the 5-10% of the recruiters would want to go and push the boundaries and may want to customize. That was not possible unless you go and call up their ATS and have them go put on the roadmap and see that in a year, maybe. Now, with AI, it allows them to just go and build it themselves. And so now we have tons of recruiters that are building stuff on top. And so examples like I've seen often are, they will use Claude Code, for example, where every morning they'll look at the past candidates that they have interviewed and see who needs to be followed up on, or look at the team performance. And according to a heuristic that they like to sort of like track activity across their team, they get a report on, okay, who's sort of performing at what I expect them to be, and who are the people I need to have more so one-on-one time to figure out like, how do I help them to improve. And these types of things, eventually, yes, we want to build into StarDex, but you can build everything. And I think having a system that still like does the core, but then allows our customers to go and improve and customize the workflow is what I kind of like think of as an opportunity for us and maybe other players as well, in terms of, hey, your customers should have a lot of control over the system that they are using, and leaning more into MCP protocol and allowing folks to use your API is the better way right now. Yes, it impacts an existing ATS's per seat pricing, but it is the path forward.
It's crazy how just the things switch and flip on like
Mm-hmm.
the biggest pain point maybe in the ATS land in the last like decade that I've been around is now just like fixed, if you will, which is like, how do I customize it to us and what we need? And
Yeah.
just looking at yourself instead of being the all in one, just being the vessel. Like we want
Mm-hmm.
to be the best vessel to, either Claude or the AI and just be, to your point, the core. But then as things evolve, we're able to help you evolve with it versus instead of being like outdated, right?
Yeah.
Or I think that all in one was kind of the, oh, well, we have to do everything because how, it's always this, or that. And now you can kind of point to like, well, here's the SOP to do this with Claude or do this with Manus and all that. But like using StarDex as kind of the foundation. I mean, the thing that for me that comes to mind is you ask a recruiter, hey, you get a new search. Where do you go first? Is it LinkedIn Recruiter? Is it SalesNav? Is it making a phone call, like your phone, right? Or your database? And not most usually don't say their own database, right? But
Yeah.
it make no sense not to just like, hey, take the transcript of the call, the intake, or here's the role, or download the email and everything. Hey, who do we have? Who's the top 5 fits right now in our database, right? And that can
Mm-hmm.
be from LinkedIn to who's in StarDex and everything else. I think that's like a no brainer. I think it's almost easier to actually run best practices as a recruiting firm than it ever has been before. I mean, I think the fundamentals are always there, but what trips people up is just the time and the data entry. And do I take
Yeah.
another call or do I work on my submittals or whatever else? And now it's like you can do it all at the same time. You just have to have the system around it.
Yeah. And I think what the way I like to tell my customers think about is, I don't know, maybe like 12 months from now, most of us will be spending a lot of our time with interacting with an agent. We already are. I mean, I think if I look at my day-to-day experiences, I'm spending a lot of my time in terms of using Claude and ChatGPT for a variety of different tasks.
Mm.
And I know that's true for a lot of knowledge workers now. Fast forward 12 months from now, maybe Apple comes up with like an iMessage agent. I don't know if they get their stuff together.
Yeah.
They will sort of like get to a place where maybe you have an agent on your phone. At that point, it's almost like your executive assistant. And in that case, you if that's a mode that most people will be interacting with, you need some way to kind of think about and pull this data in one place such that this agent can kind of go and talk to. And so almost like it's like you need some way to store this information. So what I tell people is like, hey, just go and store it somewhere. If it's not StarDex, totally fine, but start storing this somewhere so you have that repository of information. Because at some point you're going to be spending a lot of your time with an agent, and in that case, it would be helpful if it had the data you collected. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to retroactively pull that data in.
Mm-hmm.
So the one big takeaway, if someone wants to just go and like think about what do I improve about my workflow, it's less about like, hey, what AI tool to implement. Like step one, just like make sure all the things that you are like talking in conversations are just documented somewhere every day.
How you're making me think of something that I don't know if we even brainstormed ahead of time, but it was just how are you seeing and are you seeing, I guess, with agencies or on the tech side, like the balance of messing around with AI and actually being productive with AI and driving like revenue and profitability. Like, is that
Mm-hmm.
something like you've observed or looked at or kind of see where people get in the AI traps? Like, what I'm thinking is like for me with content, right? Everyone thinks they can write content now because of AI, but I know what converts is a very different story than
Yeah.
just because people are posting doesn't mean anything's actually converting, right? And so I can see that, and I have an eye for it, and I know what works. We've read thousands of posts and stuff like that, but a lot of people think that now they can be copywriters. Oh, I'll just ask, hey, write like Gary Halbert and make posts for me, and I'm done, right? But they don't really actually know the fundamental of how to turn copyright and direct response into revenue. or the market or whatever, the buyer's journey and everything else. Like, do you have the equivalent of that on like the tech side uh, that you've
Yeah.
seen? Yeah,
And so just to kind of like rephrase your question, are you asking more about, are people just spending
busy
more of their
versus
time? Yeah.
productive
Yeah.
with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, there's, and again, like I think even from a, like from my day-to-day perspective too, I see myself go through this often where
yeah,
there are certain things you're trying out and you're realizing, well, like, is this actually productive or do I feel productive?
yeah,
Right. And I know tons of recruiters go through the same exact thing because you try a new tool and you think this is shiny. One quick example is tons of times I'll talk to customers that will be debating between like, do I use this note taker or the other note taker? And you have so many choices, and effectively they are doing the same exact thing with a different flavor. And so what I tell people is just pick one. It doesn't matter which one,
yeah,
and move forward with it versus trying to figure out like, oh, this one has better summaries. It doesn't matter because they're not building their own summary generator. They're just using an off-the-shelf model, and the model's getting better and better anyways. And so it effectively, it will just do exactly how you would like it to do in a few months if it's not doing that already.
yeah,
And so I think where I see people struggle with is that they kind of get too hung up on, hey, I need to find the best solution here. It's, I think, a lot of right now where you should be thinking about is what is the solution or what are the types of things that I need to just like pick and quickly pick that will help me just like record all the information within my firm and organization such that I can scale myself. Because once you start pulling that out, then the models are going to get better, but it will effectively take care of that, the productiveness eventually.
yeah.
So I do see that a lot, and I think I just recommend people to just commit and then go forward with things versus trying to kind of like explore. From a pure productive perspective, I think you definitely want to just like think about like the examples that I've seen where people are using this really well is think through your day-to-day basis and see, are there a piece of work that is purely just monotonous, like I just go and need to do it every morning or every day, set up a Claude Cowork. But don't spend like a week figuring this out. Like do, like you can probably get to an 80% solution and just think of 80-20. Get something out there and move forward versus trying to spend more time on figuring out the ideal solution there, because you will get more and more into it. Like vibe coding has its fallacy where you can spend like weeks on it and in the end you might just run into issues.
Yeah.
So you want to just think about what is 80-20 here, get that very quickly, forget about the 20% at the moment. The models will improve eventually.
Yeah, oh, I think that last piece is really important, and it's just better published than perfect. You can get a lot of
Yeah.
feedback from just getting stuff out there. To your point, in we've talked AI, MCPs, obviously in terms of how StarDex is built around, obviously
Mm-hmm.
AI, native, but in terms of like the relationship piece, right? And all that, like where that's what recruiting is built on, right? Relationships. What's kind of your perspective on the blend of that piece of it in an AI world?
Yeah, I mean, I think in an AI world, counterintuitively, I think spending less time on with AI is going to be better,
Yeah,
is how I like to kind of like tell folks. Because if you think of a world where 12 months from now, everyone has a very powerful model, that means everyone has the same exact data for the most part. They have the same exact resources in terms of automations. At that point, what matters is the relationships you built and the niche that you built that around and the community you built around that.
yeah,
And so I think it's a lot more important. I think you had someone, I think it was the Hampton North
yeah,
episode
yeah.
where I think Scott was mentioning around niching down, right? And I think that to me is so true. I see tons of best recruiters right now are spending a lot of their time figuring out what is their niche. And I think that is what will matter a lot more, because the models have pretty much all the data that is out there publicly available. And if anything, they're doing a lot more to get access to data that's not even there easily available. yes, the only, so then at the end of the day, the only thing you have is, of course, your taste, which no one can take that away from you, which is key,
Mm-hmm.
and the depth of relationship, which has the human element as well as references and information that you are collecting through your experience talking to them, and notes and information. So that 20% of that is what I think most people should be spending a lot of their time on. And so counterintuitively, don't spend a lot of your time figuring out like and spending all your time on thinking through what's the best tool of my toolkit. No, like pick something, go forward, and spend most of your effort on some of these key pieces, which AI is going to have a very, very hard time to like automate and replace.
I can validate everything you're just saying right now. And the coaching clients that I've been working with this year, we've built lists for them, built campaigns, created some content. That's great where we can
Yeah.
execute that piece of it, that top of funnel. But it's the consulting, the coaching, how to handle the replies, all that. We went from doing a lot of 3 message sequence to now it may be just a connection request or maybe one initial
Mm-hmm.
message, and then really doing so actually spending more time doing the manual follow up, because now we can do so much really good market research so fast with AI that we can come up with like a really good follow up message, not necessarily using AI personalization or anything, but actual human. And then that one message or opener with their content and their branding and all that can be the difference with nothing versus a $250,000 pipeline of reps that
Mm-hmm.
you get just from how you do that. So we're actually valuing more the interaction, taking someone from cold to warm, like holistically with the profile and the content, the right targeting, all that. Now you got them there, you got initial reply. Now what? And so trying to leverage AI and automation for everything else to get us to that point, and then really putting way more value on that piece of it. Right? And could it be a video? Sure. What it could be just
Yeah.
intent or the right message or the right voice memo, whatever else. But like we're trying to do that. So now clients have 30 to 50 of those a week they could do. It's
Yeah.
just hyper target, hyper relevant, right? But AI is taking care of their submittals and all that, right? They're freeing up so much time elsewhere. Where are they reallocating that? Where it's like, how do you convert someone? Right? It's
Yeah.
at like top to medium to bottom of the funnel conversion, where like that's what makes the recruiting difference. And so as I'm at Pinnacle and working with different companies like Sanford Rose and Jeff K and all their agencies I've been on for a while, been really well established. They have the market mastery. That's what he talks about. So now they're looking, okay, I have some of these systems and all that. How can I leverage my relationship rapport building abilities? Where can AI and automation kind of help a lot of those pieces that I get stuck because I just want to spend more time building relationships. It's on a silver platter now. Hey, here's 20 of your ideal customers that have replied to you, showed some initial engagement. You run with it. And
Yeah.
they're like, yes, that's what I want. Like, it's get rid of the rest of the noise. Give me 20 of the right people that I've already helped, like those, similar to people I've already helped, right? Can kind of build that, rapport, that relationship, that infer, you can kind of demonstrate that expertise. And it's often running because you don't need that many of those to convert as an agency to add a ton of strong revenue to the bottom line, right? So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
I can validate what you're saying because I'm just seeing it every day on our
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like the biggest sort of like, I guess, canary in the coal mine is like, if you look at now just your email response rate, it's super low for everyone across sales and recruiting. And that's just purely driven by there's so much AI slop automation that everyone has. And we probably have even not even scratched like maybe 5% of the world using it in terms of automation. And now imagine that like people are going to have access to this a lot more, like 20x what people have currently in volume. You can imagine like no candidate or a client is going to open your email unless it is hyper specific. And part of it is, yes, you can still improve the messaging, but making sure you build your audience, right? And so like having the right content in the right place,
Yep.
and then making sure that you're also engaging them with in-person activities in where you can, I think is going to be key, because we all will crave that. That's going to be super, super important for most people. I think the best recruiters I see are doing that a lot. And also, I think they should also think about kind of the candidate experience. Okay, you interviewed someone, like how do you close the loop with that candidate? Because especially if you have a good niche, if you've found a niche, for you to kind of like get the word around the market, you need to make sure that the candidate experience also is good.
Yeah.
And the problem right now is that we don't have a lot of time. If you are talking to like 10 candidates, 15 candidates, 20 candidates sometimes in a day, there's no way you'll be able to give feedback to every individual candidate. So finding a way to create the right experience such that people think about you when they're thinking about a new role in the future, and you being that sort of recruiter in the space will make sure that you're able to kind of go and get more deals in the future.
Content. You know, that's, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a huge one. And yeah, I mean, we're taking transcripts from candidate calls, client calls that our clients have, and turn that into content, you know, for them. I mean, we interview them traditionally, but also even just to your point, accessing the data and then having
Yeah.
copywriters on staff really turn that into something, getting in front of it. And then one thing I heard, I talked to a client or a recruiter
Mhm.
yesterday, was she was talking to a hiring manager that is hiring again after years of like not hiring or just haven't had a role to, you know, to hire for in a while, and he's overwhelmed. He doesn't know what to
Mhm.
do with AI. He doesn't know who's real, who's not real, and everything else. So the
Yeah.
value of engaging with her again is the fact that they're able to do the screening and the vetting process, which is obviously, you know,
Mhm.
the original formula for agency recruiting, right? That's not necessarily surprising. That's one of the value adds that recruiters have always said. Oh, well, we'll vet them for you and screen them. And before it was like, okay, that's nice. Depending on the industry, I may or may not really value that. But now with AI, it's like, please vet them. Like, I want to know that someone talked to them. So the value of the screen has just skyrocketed in a
Mhm.
lot of areas. And so I think the lesson there is just pay attention, listen to the hiring managers, understand how they're interacting with AI, what their feelings, like the problems, like what they're running into, because they will give you where the opportunity is to how to position yourself going forward.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
any last things, you know, anything takeaways that firm owners should be focused on this quarter, this year, tactical, strategic, you know, what last things that we got?
I mean, I think the biggest tactical thing that I've been spending a lot of time with our customers is like spend time with Claude and
Yeah.
Claude Cowork. You can do a lot of automations now, and I think ChatGPT is also catching up in some of these areas. But the daily automations, the weekly automations are a big time saver. It doesn't really matter what ATS, what system you're using. It integrates with your calendar, Gmail, Outlook, and you can build some random things like, okay, every morning look at my emails from specific clients and give me a summary on that, or across a set of clients. Those things are super helpful, and you might be already doing that manually, and it's honestly just a prompt away now. So a biggest tactical takeaway is folks that are not aware about these things, just spend some time in terms of creating Claude skills and Claude Cowork tasks. I've been running a lot of sessions on this topic, and I'm noticing that like when people join, they're like, oh, wow, like I can do that. I didn't even know. And so that's probably the biggest takeaway. Like get just familiar with that. There's a lot of value you can capture right away without even buying a new software, doing any migrations. No need to worry about any of that.
Where are you? Because how you post about it? Are you running the like a LinkedIn Live or some for webinars, or where are you running those?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I usually just run sort of
Yeah.
on like a Zoom call with like about 60, 70 folks that join on a given workshop.
Nice.
So I'll be sharing more of that on LinkedIn. But again, a lot of these things are self-explanatory. If you just open up Claude and just kind of like ask it, like, this is what I wanted to do, it will guide it. Like,
Yeah.
I like to just say, just be patient, prompt it, and you'll probably get pretty far on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be sharing more of this as well on my LinkedIn.
I love it. So make
Yeah.
sure to everyone's got to follow you on LinkedIn, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We've got a lot of, you know, class stuff that we're going to show in Digital Recruiter Academy, and I mean, build LinkedIn automation campaigns and do everything through Claude. Now it's like pretty insane what you can do, and all that piece of it might be an opportunity for us to do a co-workshop at some point on the Claude stuff. I love it, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Like this is just great, super cool to see where this is going. Where how you guys have kind of, you know, how you built StarDex and kind of just the future is now kind of stuff, right? With the AI native piece of it. We'll have your LinkedIn and the website in the episode bio, so make sure to hit up Sanket. Are they going to be talking to you now? No, you just hired a rep, right? They'll be able to take over, and run some calls. So
Yeah.
that's super exciting. Book a demo. Obviously, you know what he's talking about. You know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
get on the phone, and figure out, what can work for you. You got to get into the game, and to your point, just like use it, just try, just do something, right? And just
Yeah.
start to get acclimated a little bit every single day, and go to the free workshops that are out there that Sanket is hosting and running, and just learn, right? You don't have to do it all at once, but just get in the game and just keep learning. I do think like this is turning into like a full-time like role itself for a lot of
Yeah.
agencies. Like it's going to be a dedicated person, whether you outsource it or have it internal.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
what's
it's
up there.
overwhelming, right?
Yeah,
By just looking at it. But I think the way I kind of tell people is think of it, you're talking to an assistant and or an intern, and have in a way they are like a pretty smart assistant or a smart intern, and just have questions for them, and it'll guide you through it.
yeah,
Like, yes, it's overwhelming, but you can get pretty far by just being patient, prompting, and like you said, don't get too overwhelmed. Don't try to do everything. Pick two or three things and explore. You can get pretty far automating some of these things now, and you should be doing that. If you're not doing that, I think you should start thinking about it like ASAP on that
a-
piece.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Sanket, appreciate you being on here. This was a great conversation. Excited to see, keep following the journey and the growth. Um, and go until next
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Appreciate the time here.
All right.
This is
Well,
fun.
give if you got value out of this, which you definitely got value out of this episode, so give us some love, 5 stars, whatever platform you're listening on, and go check, follow StarDex. Keep, do book a demo, check it out, learn, get in the game, and until next time, y'all, happy hunting.